This is Fallout 4. We're here on PlayStation 5 looking at the next gen update to that next gen update. So be sure to like the video, subscribing is great as well. So they've done a number of quick visual changes to the game. And we now have a new host of options in regards to changing the visuals of the experience here. And it looks like we have a bit of a rad storm going on, which is just lovely. So the first thing to note is that I have taken off the mods so that this is the vanilla experience. I guess we'll have to do another mod video later on. Stay tuned. And you'll also notice under display, we now have no options to change the actual visuals. You have to change that from the main menu of the game if you want to adjust the visuals. You can't do that on the fly. It looks like we've got HDR again, which is kind of nice, and a few different choices for experiencing just what this game has to offer. So I think the big test for this one, obviously, is going to the, well, downtown to the Swan's Pond. This also seems to just kind of be the general test. This is a test to use for everything. This showcases how your game for Fallout 4 on any setting is going to actually run the best. So for context right now, we're showing off the quality mode. So the game kind of acts a little bit more like a PC type of scenario in the sense that you now have a choice. You can choose between a visual push or a performance push. So, oh, what did Doggo find? And then from there on, you can choose a couple different. Really, I have to activate that chain. That's hilarious. Then you can choose a couple different target settings. So you could be like, oh, I want to target 30 FPS. I want to target 40 FPS. I want to target 60 FPS. The choices are yours. So this is a visual preset. So this is pushing the visuals and attempting to hit 60 FPS. It's actually not bad, and you get like higher kind of settings and stuff for the graphics, but you can definitely notice that there is performance hits to this area, and this is like the most demanding part of the game is this area here, and the downtown where the Swan is, because this is like where there's usually destruction, mutants, and chaos. But yeah, not really running into too many mutants, but you could definitely see how that is impacting the gameplay. Now, for context, for those that are wanting to have, I guess you would say, the 40 FPS mode, that is only for screens that have the 120 hertz, so the 120 FPS option. So you need a display that can handle VRR, variable refresh rate, in order to enjoy what that has to offer. Oh, that's kind of a neat door. I don't really remember that one. So anyways, we're just going to get to our starting little set spot here, and now we're going to show off the different graphical options as we quit and go back to the main menu. And yeah, like I said, for a mods video, I'm going to have to do another relook because, yeah, I wasn't expecting an update on top of an update. So here's what we were talking about. Prioritizing visuals, prioritizing performance. And then 60, you're going to just notice my screen kind of pop for a sec because it's got to do its VRR stuff. 40, then we go down. It's got to do its little thingy again, and we're getting 30 FPS. So I don't think we need the 30, personally. But you know what? If you want a locked thing, that's kind of cool. So we showed off quality. We're going to show off performance, and we're going to push for the full 60 FPS. So we're going to have to do a couple tests, which I know isn't ideal, but that's just kind of what we're doing here. Alright, so there we go. We've got the 60. Let's back out and let's continue this experience. I was going to kind of do chops and cuts, but I guess the game does technically load fast enough that it's not that big of a deal. So this is dynamic resolution scaling across the board, but it does actually seem to largely be actually presenting at 4K. But I think you can notice here between the two versions that you do get just like sort of a quality settings downgrade when you go to performance mode, but the performance level is a lot better. I don't want to say it's necessarily like perfect in regards to like, you know, doing the 4K 60 thing. It's Fallout 4. Fallout 4 always has bugs and stuff, but this mode is a decent quality mode in regards to like giving you a visual presentation that is, you know, trying to get 4K, trying to get 60 FPS, and actually providing something that is a good vanilla foundation for if you do want to add some mods that do adjust how the game looks, that they can handle things, especially on the PS5 where the, I guess you would say, honestly, the modding scene isn't like the best compared to the Xbox side of things. And that's literally, you know, just because of the Sony, I guess you would say, rulings on things in regards to like what is allowed for mods. So just keep that in mind. And you'll notice I'm not taking damage. That's because this was a modded file save where some mods have left permanent changes to the game, but the idea was that everything is as vanilla as I can possibly make it for you. And there were some additional bug fixes that were kind of presented here with this update. So the idea really was to kind of clean up the update, which kind of blows my mind because, again, this was an update that like literally took, I think it was a year and a half. It was like kind of, you know, delayed basically, or more. And it's just kind of like, I can't believe it took so long, and then the game update came out in the shape that it did. So you can still see a little bit of struggling in this situation. But for the most part, this mode is a generally solid way to play. So if you do want to make sure you're getting the performance level, that is something that is like 60 FPS, and showing it good performance mode, I think visually looks fine. Runs the game generally well, but I think we're going to have to wait another console gen to actually properly get, you know, that sort of graphical setting where it's like, hey, you know, we're actually getting full 4K 60 with all the bells and the whistles. And by then they'll probably do like a remastering version on top of things. So yeah. So next up, we're going to go back to visuals. We're going to bop her to the 40 FPS mode, which again, you need to have a screen that supports 120 hertz. You know, you gotta, the VRR is kind of the way to go. So those are for those that have the modernized display options, which I think is becoming more and more common, hopefully, if you haven't already thought of investing in one. If you are going to be doing more console gaming in the future and stuff, that's kind of the way to go. So the 40 FPS mode is a mode I actually really genuinely love. I think it's so cool because a lot of companies and developers and studios will kind of be like, okay, we've got way too much tech pushing, we can't achieve 60, you get 30. But some of them have been kind enough to provide us with 40 FPS. And I know that sounds really odd if you're not familiar with it. So it's like it's targeting the 4K, the quality visual mode, but it's giving us 40 FPS. It's a divisible number in regards to the frame rate, and it's just basic layman terms. I'm trying to provide as best as I can so everyone can understand. Just, you know, don't hate on me if I'm not being technical enough. But essentially the idea is it's better than 30 FPS because it feels a lot more fluid. It's not perfect like 60 FPS, but it allows them to kind of like tone down the frame rate but keep the visuals up. And I think this is a really nice way to actually enjoy, oh, the Shamrock Tap House. Yeah, I've been looking for this place on my Xbox streams. I've walked right by this a few times. That's hilarious. I was like, where is the Shamrock place? I remember it, but yeah. So anyways, there's something about 40 FPS. I don't specifically know what, but like it feels really fluid to play. It's not perfectly fluid, but it's just got that extra level of sort of feeling that I quite enjoy in a video game. And it's kind of like, and you still get a really good looking game. So I think, like myself, there are at least a few other people out there that have like kind of warmed up to the idea of 40 FPS being kind of a mode. You can't give us 60, at least give us 40. And it's kind of this nice middle ground. I jump way too high in this. And again, it's not, you know, it's not 60 FPS. I don't necessarily want to pretend it is, but I think as you can tell as we're moving through this area, it is like a really smooth 40 FPS. Like it actually really seems to not have any sort of dips or drops or problems. So I think 40 FPS is that nice kind of middle ground where it's giving us the potential to really, really enjoy that premium, all of the bells and the whistles of the higher like visual assets. Because quality mode is trying to make the game look a lot better, right? It's 4K, but it's also like got some extra little bells and whistles aesthetically. I just discovered the station. That's funny considering I've been doing loops around here. So this mode to me, I think is one that has a lot of potential. I don't know if there's anyone out there that doesn't really like the 40 FPS option, but you know, if you've never tried it before and you have a TV that can do it, you should kind of give it a whirl, I think. And you might genuinely really like what it has to offer. Hey, dog meat. As I think that's really, really cool. And this mode, to me, seems to be a really, really good balance between things. So that's where I'm saying that this option might be really good for you if you have that kind of TV. Now, if you really, really want to make sure that you are absolutely hitting your 40 FPS, and again, I don't think you need it. You can do performance mode at 40 FPS. This is where it's kind of like, I would say you're going to be doing some heavier modding, which really isn't a thing on PlayStation. Sorry, but it isn't. I know there's mods out there, but it's just not... You know what I mean? It's just not really a thing like it is where Xbox has those extra assets in the thing. That's where the modding thing comes in, is Xbox Fallout has those extra assets that allow it on Xbox to be like new trees, new stuff, new items. That's where there's more of a load on the Xbox side of things. Whereas PlayStation, like again, this is fluid, this feels good, this feels really locked, but I would personally say you can more easily, for like kind of the graphics modes on this game, the 4K 60 performance mode, if you can handle some drops, the 4K 60 quality mode has its moments, it's not too bad. If you are wanting kind of a nice balance, you're totally fine with a little bit of a lower frame rate. I would say the quality with the 40 FPS is a really, really nice option. But seriously, sitting here looking at this mode here on the performance mode, it's like, yeah, this is totally fine and cool, but I feel like you can get those extra visuals with the 40 FPS mode and not have to necessarily sacrifice stuff, really, right? And then, of course, we do have... Do I have any grenades? This is a nightmare. We do have the 30 FPS modes, which we'll take a look at the quality one. What is this, a gang of Miss Summers? What are these ghouls here? Definitely creepy. So, like, it is about choice, and I think that choice is really important, personally. Like, I love that we're getting more and more PC-like choices. Wow, these things are actually tough. Dog meat, get out of here! This gang of Miss Ladies, is there like a school nearby? They're terrifying. Terrifying monsters. Please leave me be. Yeah, so I really don't think the 30 FPS modes are necessarily, like, needed. It made sense the other week when we didn't have a 40 FPS. But, well, I guess they are needed because a lot of people do not have a 120 hertz screen. Huh. There we go, as I'm catching myself in that thing, kind of thinking about it. Believe it or not, I had this all planned out beforehand. But, like, yeah, I'm kind of sitting there being like, yeah, you know what? There is a thing where it's kind of like, we're gonna do... Oh, does that one keep overriding that other one? We're gonna go back to the Commonwealth here and kind of show off the 30 FPS one. So, yeah, that's where that kind of idea and that comparison comes in. And that's where I was kind of almost getting mixed up on, is like, oh, well, you don't need 30 FPS, we have 40 FPS. But, yes, we still are in a time, and I need to remember that, where people don't all have the 120 hertz screens. And that's where that kind of issue comes in, of me being like, oh, well, you know, we don't need 30 because we have 40 FPS. That's funny. Someday, that'll, you know, I don't think there'll be a problem as the screens become more and more default. But, like, yeah, no, that's why we have the 30 FPS options. So here we are with the full bells and whistles, 30 FPS. It's locked. It doesn't feel... Like, Fallout's a shooter game, right? Like, it's also an RPG, but it is a shooter game. And there is something distinctly better about the idea of playing a shooter game at a higher frame rate if possible. But it's also a role-playing game, so it's not necessarily the end of the world. But yeah, that's a big thing. Is it's like I guess if you want the max quality, I don't know. I'm mostly trying to give you opinions. I do not get really the point in doing the 30 FPS performance mode. Like, I think PlayStation, there should be enough overhead. So let's just go over the course of our different graphic mode options. So I would personally say, you know what, if you can handle some performance drops in some of the more hard areas, and you're not really getting any mods that are going to be really intense on your performance level, I would say go for the quality mode, 4K 60 FPS target. If you absolutely need performance in every situation, 4K 60 FPS performance mode. If you want a higher level of performance, but you don't mind having like a lower performance target, I think that visual quality mode at 4K 40 FPS is a nice choice. If you don't have a TV that can do that and you want to make sure you have a locked performance level, I guess this high quality visuals 4K 30 mode is your sort of thing. And I do applaud Bethesda for offering this many different choices. Should it have taken this long? Probably not, to be honest. Like, this just doesn't feel very good to play. Like, honestly, at 30 FPS. And it's like, it kind of feels like it's dropping, but I think I'm just also used to, like, the fluidity of the other two modes, so it's hard to, like, go to something this low. And then the final mode, I don't know. I really don't get the point of the performance 4K 30 FPS, because that just feels like you're just playing the game we've already had for years on PS5 as is. It doesn't feel like a next gen. Like, it just doesn't feel like there's a point in doing that mode. But that's a personal thing to me, so that's why I'm not even... Like, I really don't even get the point in presenting that. But I guess we should, just in case someone is like, oh, why didn't you show this off? So I guess we will back out and do that. It's just kind of annoying having to flop in and out. So it's, to me, that I find that kind of weird. And I don't really get why that has to become a thing on this one, if that makes sense. Because very clearly with the previous next-gen update that they did, literally, like, I think it was like a week or two ago. It's like, it feels like I just wrapped up on all that stuff. We had the option to switch in the game at any point, so you could immediately see the back and forth. So I don't really understand why you now need to go to the main menu, unless there's some kind of weird bug and or setting and or reason. Like, I guess they want you to have the default thing to some degree, but I don't know. I'm just like, I'm really genuinely curious as to why. So obviously this is the 4K 30 FPS with the performance mode push. I don't know, I'm just kind of like really pondering as to why that setting isn't in the game. It's not the end of the world. I know that, obviously, but I'm just, again, from my standpoint of where I look at the technical and the performance elements of, like, video games, I don't know why that decision was made not to allow you to change it on the fly. Some games do it because of the way they inherently load in, and I don't know if it was maybe causing some bugs, but it is a legitimate question. So this mode was just to show this mode. I personally don't think there's any scenarios where this mode should be a mode you play. You have that choice. That's totally up to you. But I personally do not see why you would need that option. But again, totally up to you. So we're going to go to visual 60 FPS, and we're going to show off and talk about the game more, because obviously with this being like a review, I do need to, well, I feel like I need to at least review the game. I spent a lot of time reviewing it last time when we did this update, because we didn't have so many technical kind of options to look at, if that makes sense. So this is a lot more like, there's a lot going on here. Oh, that fluidity increase is just like, oh, it's amazing. Okay, let's dive in and let's talk about Fallout 4 in general, just in case, you've never played the game, you're looking at them to finally do the update, and you're like, okay, now's the time to jump in, you need a review of the game. For those that have already seen all my review stuff, yeah, I get it, you can totally tune out at this point. I totally understand, but Fallout 4, a beautiful world, the Commonwealth, the Boston area, the place lost to time and to the bombs. So you play as either a male or female, you're a husband-wife combination, and something happens, the bombs are dropping, you find yourself in a vault, or headed to a vault, because there's a big, like, kind of a half-hour prologue sort of thing. You're in Vault 111. You wake up, Sanctuary, your home, your area, which actually looks like a pretty luxurious spot considering it's like got water and everything, like dividing it. It's like an estate island, which is probably means you're pretty high living life and stuff in the suburbs. You awaken and things aren't good. You kind of are like lucidly awake and you see your spouse getting shot, your kid taken, and then you awaken after the delirium of whatever, and you find yourself going out there into the world, a lost apocalyptic world where the nukes dropped, and you are trying to figure out what happened to your kid. And that is the catalyst of the story. You going out and trying to figure out what exactly is going on, becoming accustomed to this new world, customizing your character, grabbing unique weapons, tools, assets, meeting companions, having romance, exploring the wasteland, seeing all of the hidden surprises that await you out here in the world of Fallout 4. It's a lovely time. You get to really meet some unforgettable characters, go on some crazy battles, visit lost vaults. I would highly recommend as well to grab the DLC for this game, which I was actually pretty lucky. I asked for like a code on PlayStation because there was the whole issue with the PS Plus version of the game not working, and they actually did give me a code, so now I have access to all of the different DLC in this game. So I kind of want to go to the Game Hub and sort of show that off here. So there's, if you can buy the Game of the Year edition, it comes with everything. Highly recommend that. But if you absolutely are like picking and choosing, Nuka World is like one of my favorite DLCs of all time. Nuka World is a treat, a blast. It's like a Disneyland if Coke ran it, and it was twisted and messed up Fallout like. Nuka World's really cool. Far Harbor, if you like Nick Valentine, who's one of the main kind of companions and characters in the game. Far Harbor is a treat. It's a blast. It's a cool, creepy, weird island place. And then the other ones are more if you're into the settlement building, which is something we'll talk about, like automaton, contraptions, vault tech, you get to run a vault. So I thought that was just something to really quickly highlight and talk about within this game. So another element is the modding. So in this game, you're able to download mods. As I've mentioned, PlayStation is very restrictive for its mods, and it's a bit of a shame, but there's not really anything we can do about it. Yeah, sure, there's some mods that improve things, but you can't radically change the world of Fallout 4 like you can on the Xbox side of things. And again, that's just how it is. Don't get mad at me. So like a lot of people really are like, oh, blah, 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 but it's like, that's just how it is. You're always I'm always recommending people to suggest mods and stuff, but nothing that I see really pops up super intrigues me, if that makes sense. It's something that radically changes the game, like the Xbox version gets to for mods. It's probably like one of the few weak points, I would say, for this side of things. Otherwise, this is a very, very good way to play Fallout 4. Honestly, it really is on PlayStation. This is a very, very well put together next-gen update for the game. Aside from, the obvious bugs and stuff like that and the mod issues, but that's a whole thing by itself. Dog meat, you're so good! Good doggo. So Fallout 4 is a world awaiting you. And on the current gen setup, because it's not really, like, technically it's not next gen, if that makes sense, because it's been so long it's a current gen update, but next gen has a cooler buzzword to it, right? This is a really, really good way to play it. and a good way to experience it. And I think you'll really quite fall in love with the world of Fallout, just like I have many times. Like I loved this game when it came out. I was just overjoyed by it. I had so much fun playing it. I got completely lost in its world, and every time I play it, there's always like new areas to visit. So like I mostly play this on the Xbox, but I've played this on the PlayStation. I've played this, across generations. I've played this on different setups and different scenarios. I've put in a lot, like we're talking days. I've done multiple plays. It's a great experience, and it's one where it's so fun to keep coming back to, if that makes sense, because you can like replay it and have different experiences. And I would say if this is, for whatever reason, now you're waiting to check it out for this update, the male and the female options. I like the male voice character. Obviously, I played a couple times through in that way, but I was most recently doing my modded playthrough with the I think they call her Nora, is the female voice character, and she's great. The performance, the voice acting, I would highly recommend giving that a shot if you haven't tried the female character. Like, it doesn't really change things in the game, but just like the way she does her sarcasm and stuff is hilarious. Like, just downright funny. I absolutely love it. And I never tried that before because, now there's an excuse to give it a whirl, right? So I thought that was really, really cool. But the world of Fallout 4 really is something that is expansive and massive. You can go off on so many different weird, quirky adventures. The DLC adds more content to the main game if there's not enough content. And it's a game that I think you'll just love. I think you can just absolutely get lost in the world of Fallout and have a great time exploring and seeing things and visiting new areas and going off on new adventures and finding new monsters and finding weird characters and talking and going on quests. It's one of those games where it's like, yeah, the main story is like find your kid, but like I don't think many people really care about that because it's more about the adventure you have outside of that, if that makes sense. I think most people would agree with me that like you kind of get lost in the adventure of doing other things, and that's the fun of Fallout 4. Another fun thing for Fallout 4 that I really love and waste way too much of my time on is settlement building. I love, love, love settlement building. You gather resources across the wasteland, you scrap stuff, you build stuff, you make houses all on your own, like kind of pre-modeled ones and stuff. Mods are really cool for this, by the way. But like, yeah, you can really come in and you can just sort of build your own area and have like your own little society. And you do this across the game. Like, there's always another settlement that needs your help. But you go to these different settlements and you can have like trade systems and stuff going on. It's really, really quite cool and really quite complicated. And I'm trying to cover everything I can about the world of Fallout, but it is dense, like full day-night cycles, weathering events, weird things that can go on in the environment, creatures, monsters, different companions. Like I said, companions you can have romance lines with. You can meet all kinds of different voice characters. You can run into raiders or deathclaws or other weird behemoth monsters. There's robots trying to kill you. It's utterly ridiculous, just the amount of depth and detail to this game. There's not really many out there that hit the role-playing elements like this one quite does. It was such a special moment for me reviewing and playing this game when it came out back in the day. And to kind of like be here almost a decade on re-experiencing this game really, really is genuinely quite a treasure and a pleasure in general to kind of just be over here and having an excuse to talk about the game and go over it and present it and kind of be like, hey, here's how it's looking, here's how it's running, I love this so much, I think you will too, and hopefully getting some people that have never tried this before to give it a chance and play it and experience the game. And so there's so many newcomers too from who I was talking to when I was doing these videos the first time around, and now we have this like new update. Is he dead because I didn't come here fast enough? Is that Garvey? No, I think that's someone else. That's kind of funny. But yeah, I hope you give it a chance if you never have. And I think you will love the freedom of choice in this game, the quests you see, and join and venture in on the weird, quirky moments, and just like the unforgettable, crazy adventures you can have in Fallout. Like, it's so much fun, and I think you've been missing out if you've never played it, because this is a massive world full of adventure. and excitement and things to see and do. And I think you'll absolutely love what Fallout 4 has to offer for you. So go out and have fun in the wasteland.